It's another beautiful edition of Jurisprudential Tuesday, your favorite legal program brought to you by the Faculty of Law, University of Udoh. This program aims at educating, addressing, and analyzing issues from the legal perspective. I am Eddiong Ihanacho, and I will be doing this alone. With me is Edidiong who will be my co-host on this program. Edidiong, it's good to have.
Thank you very much. I'm much delighted to be here.
The learned Oputa Jeffessy in Josiah versus the state said that justice is not a one-way traffic, but a three-way traffic, which is justice for the appellants, justice for the victim, and justice for the society. In light of this, 2 days ago, a lifeless body laid along Calabar Iti Road, and onlookers, crowd, and eyewitnesses testified that he was beaten to death and what? Because he stole a Nokia torchlight. It was such a gory sight and a horrific incident, which has called for recourse. This has now raised concerns on issues bedeviling this country and in this land. Is Nigeria really a lawless country? Because on today's edition, we have fresh graduates who would be shedding more light on the topic extrajudicial killing and the way forward.
Such a pleasure for me to introduce the guests that we have in today's Jurisprudential Tuesday. We have Mr. Edidiong Udoh, who's the leadership author and a former head of professor in St. James.
Thank you very much.
Now we have Preye Itoko, who's the former chairman board of trustees of SAR, Justice Udoh James.
We also have Ms. Josephine Affia, and she's a tech enthusiast, the former Advocate General of Justice Essien Chambers, and also a social media marketer, which we'll have in today's edition. We also have an award-winning journalist, a judicial reporter, a life partner of the Mama Chambers, Mr. Essien. It's good to have him in today's edition. Today, this session is going to be a very interesting and interactive session. So I'll start with you, Edidiong Udoh. What's jungle justice?
Jungle justice is an extrajudicial killing of a person suspected to have committed a crime. So basically, Mr. A finds Mr. B taking a property, perhaps hurriedly, and then with that scene, he just assumes that this person is stealing the property, so he raises an alarm, people come together, they beat this guy up, and he's dead. So that is jungle justice.
So what are those factors that contribute to jungle justice in Nigeria?
All right, so if you listen to what Edidiong Udoh said earlier, I think what I deduced from that was the fact that jungle justice is actually a form of self-help that the people resort to. In a case, they define it as justice for the people and by the people. Now, when you're looking at the factors that contribute to jungle justice, they can be political, they can be cultural, they can be economic. Economic in the sense that most of the people who carry out these activities are people who do not have the money to pursue justice and the rest of that. And you can also say cultural. If you look at the Bible, I think I was talking to someone the other day and he made mention of the fact that jungle justice actually started from the Bible, where Moses asked the people to stone people when they carry out an action that is not bad. So a lot of things in our community saying that it's not bad, that is bad rather. Most times is bad. So a lot of things in our community contribute, but you should have it at the back of your mind that it can either be cultural, it can be economic, it can be political.
Mr. Harrison, I think you want to add something to that.
Yes, in addition to what my colleague said, if you take a look at our society today, it does appear that a good number of people have lost confidence in our judicial system because people do believe that the time that the person is taken to the courts, the time is going to take a longer time. And therefore, if you take a look at the definition of jungle justice, it is a rapid action. It is instant. And so people tend to believe that it would take time for them to prosecute the accused person in the court. And then there's also the issue of the police. A lot of people believe that once the person is arrested and taken to the police station, the person is going to be set free and return to the community to continue with the act. So to them, the punishment, the penalty, the remedy is for them to attack the person at that particular time to get the justice for them. And that is why it is called jungle justice.
So are you now saying that that's a justification for this act?
No, there is no justification for jungle justice, because in our laws, there's nowhere jungle justice is provided for. Both in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria,
But there is a moral justification, because there is the concept of human revenge. If you take my property, for instance, I have 2 cars. I think one out of the first cars, I report to the police. After 5 years, nothing is done about the matter. The second time you come for that car, the memory I have about the first car would influence whatever I did to him in the process of stealing. So that serves as an inherent moral justification for whatever conduct that is carried out to the accused. So it may not be a legal justification, but there is a moral justification. And the concept of jungle justice is a social-legal concept. It's not just exclusive to the legal field. It also has a sociological and psychological constructs behind it. So I think that's...
I also believe that the fact that our judicial system is not really trustworthy to some extent to the populace cannot really be overemphasized. Another major factor we should also ponder on the factor of poverty. If you take a look at societies or situations where jungle justice in quotes usually carried out is usually in areas where the persons, as Josephine had earlier said, are not people that are financially buoyant enough to prosecute these persons, so they take matters into their own hands. It also occurs in places like markets, rural areas, and so forth. So poverty is a major factor that actually contributes.
And religion as well. Last year, the case of Deborah Samuel over the issue of blasphemy to one of the very popular religions in our country, that served as a justification for summarily executing her just because of what she said. So jungle justice can be occasioned by religion as well.
And ignorance. This leads me to the question, jungle justice, when it is done, is it done because an act has been committed? Must an act be committed before jungle justice is done?
And I feel unless you're mad, you don't react. People are reacting in nature. So they react to things. So it may be wrong, it may not be wrong. The person may have done it, the person may not have done it. But if they are going to react, they are reacting based on an act that they've been informed of.
So, yes, so does not giving a person a change, like a story we had that happened in Lagos, yes, does not giving a person a change, constitute to jungle justice? Let me say, the story which you're trying to portray is the one of a certain David, an Okada driver in Lagos State, that was killed by a wolf because he did not have 100 naira change to give to his passenger. So your question is, does that constitute an act that could lead to jungle justice? Well, in the real sense, to my mind, it doesn't constitute an act that can lead to jungle justice. But there are certain, about 48% of Nigerians have actually witnessed jungle justice, and largely there's always an outcry. Someone has to cry to say thief or rape or something to call people's attention to that act. So there's a possibility, I wasn't there, but there's a possibility that there was an outcry, and that's why he was attacked by the mob and killed. There's also another case that happened earlier this year in Bayelsa State, where a passenger paid the keke driver 100 naira instead of 150, and for the 50 naira, the Hausa man stabbed him and he died on the spot. And at that very spot, the persons in the market beat up the keke driver and burnt him to ashes. There's a coffee in Bayelsa State ongoing up to this time because of that. Now that's jungle justice. That's justice to them, to that society in that instance. I believe it's because of, like that actually earlier said, the lack of trust in our judicial system or police system in carrying out that justice that warrants such an act.
So I think we don't discuss so far. We know that jungle justice is bad. Or then the question would be, are they consequences of jungle justice on our rule of law and in our Nigerian judicial system? Can anyone probably talk about some consequences of jungle justice in today's Nigerian legal system?
It is important to state here categorically that jungle justice is condemnable. No matter any form of it is condemnable. And my colleague Preye made mention of the locality that also contribute to it. That's the environment. But let me also point it out that even in the university, jungle justice do take place. As a matter of fact, on 11 April 2023, just few days ago, at the Obafemi Awolowo University in Ife, a student of that university, a final year student, was lynched. What was the reason? For allegedly stealing a cell phone in the hostel. The student was not given any opportunity to be heard, no fair hearing. At the end of the day, he was killed. A day before, at Akure, Ondo State, a young man who was identified as an internet fraudster, locally called Yahoo Boy, was also lynched for hitting a passersby and ran away. And inside the vehicle, it was checked that there was some concoction inside the vehicle, and therefore he was lynched to death. Then what are the consequences? Our law has prescribed jungle justice in its entirety. As a matter of fact, in our constitution, section 33 provides that everyone has the right to life. Nobody has the right to take the life of another except by an order of court. And therefore, coming back home a few days ago at Udoh Road, Uyu, Akwa Ibom State, a young man was beaten to death and he was burned.
Burns with a tire.
A tire, just because he allegedly stole a cell phone from a young lady. So at the end of the day, there is no justification to prove that jungle justice should be the punishment or penalty for anybody that commits a crime. Because to me, it is like using criminality to punish another criminality.
Folks of everything that we said here is that jungle justice actually does involve a lack of trust in the Nigerian judicial system.
It is condemnable in our society, in our law.
Also in section 34 sub 2 of the 1999 Constitution, kicks against inhuman treatment, which involves the burning of people with tire and the rest of the other crimes that we see.
Yes, so some of them might be beaten even to their death.
That, yeah, some of them are going to death. So section 34 of the 1999 Constitution kicks against inhuman treatment. It cannot be condoned. As he said, it's using an unlawful act to correct an unlawful act, which is not admissible. It's not allowed in Nigeria. So our Nigerian legal system actually does kick against it. And you ask for the consequences. Yes, there are consequences. Order, if you kill, you die in Nigeria. Unless maybe it was by mistake or something. But obviously, jungle justice is not a mistake. And I think the reason why we have problem, or should I say we have less jungle justice issues in the court, is because we are not able to identify the people who carry out these activities. Because when you carry a whole community, you can't easily say who did this, who did that.
You can't people.
Yes, but there are consequences for jungle justice, and yes, it should be more that there is imprisonment for years and the rest of that.
You know, there's this saying that this jungle justice weakens legislation. I don't know. Could you say anything about that? How does it weaken the legislation?
Okay, so basically, Thomas Hobbes talked about the society without law, that is solitary, British, and Nash. Okay, so when these laws that are supposedly put in place to regulate the society are outrightly disobeyed, as a typical instance of jungle justice, it just shows that there is, in practical sense, no law, or a law that is largely unapplicable. Do you understand? So this position in our law is not just in Nigeria, it is also in consonance with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So basically, if we cannot prosecute people who carry out jungle justice on individuals or Nigeria or the citizenry, it means that there are certain areas of our laws that are weak. And that's the loophole for what Thomas Hobbes described. That is the society that is solitary, British, and Nash. Meaning that in the area of criminality, we do not have a practical legal system in courts. Because we cannot prosecute someone who carried out jungle justice, meaning the person can kill and go scot-free. And that's very bad, because apparently jungle justice does not follow the due process of law. So it is possible that at the end of the day, the person who was killed be discovered to have been innocent.
You know, Edidiong, I was coming to that due process because there's one thing that we've noticed, if people who perpetrate this act is that they are the people who are killed, they are the witness, they are the judge, and they are also, the executioner.
That's that there's trial, the injustice. We were Sarah of the Supreme Court in one case. I can't remember the title of the case, but I will check it for the end of this session. He said that the due process that every case deserves is necessary to prove crime. Meaning that crime should not be something that you just wake up one morning, you see someone who does something that is wrong and then you kill him. Because in our criminal justice system, remember that it is preferable to allow one person go scot-free and to allow the 99 be prosecuted for a wrong crime.
So, sorry, you want to say something? Yes, I wanted to ask a question. So, does all this explanation indict some government organizations, especially the police enforcement agencies, in the situation or acting jungle justice? Does jungle justice actually indict the police as failed and unperforming organization in any sense?
Very well, yes, it does. And you know, when I studied about the history of jungle justice, I read about the Bakassi guys, where governors from southeastern state of Nigeria hired this set of guys to, when you find a thief, you kill him. And the government supported that at the time. So that should prove that the police, which is the system set up by the state, was largely ineffective. That is why they had to opt for this arrangement that is illegal largely. So that definitely that points to the fact that the police has been largely ineffective. If we ever would talk,
Mr. Eddy, we can't actually assert that fact because we see policemen, do their work so happens with this way, who arrest, who prosecute, and let's say some of the policemen, have been ineffective.
In addition to that, you see, where there is a jungle justice is where there is a dysfunctional judicial system, whereby the people have lost confidence and credibility in the law enforcement agents. Talk to each of them, people that perpetrate this crime. Get in contact with them, interact with them in the course of this. You will come to discover that a good number of them believe that the process of prosecuting their accused person will take a lot of time. And then some also believe that they have lost confidence in the law enforcement agents. I am not justifying that, but that could be a major factor behind jungle justice.
Could you give us a specific example? Could you be specific in cases that have been delayed over time?
There are so many now. There are so many. For instance, just a few days ago at the State High Court, a matter that involved a young man, is a fisherman. He was hired by his boss to accompany him to fishing in Bakassi Peninsula in Cameroon. Along the line, the particulars of offense shows that a brother to the master hired him to kill his elder brother. And so on return from work in Cameroon, he stopped by in a place called Essien in urban local government area of Akwa Ibom State, and then hit the master with caught him, inflicted bodily harm on the master, and the man slumped and he drew him by the river bank, believing that he was dead. It took a good Samaritan from that village to come to the rescue the man, and he was rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, upon getting to the house, he went and fraudulently collected the sum of 200,000 naira from the wife of his boss, deceiving her that the boss needed the money. After waiting endlessly for 2 days without coming back from work, the wife has to go and report to the police of the case of missing of her husband. The incident occurred in 2012, 14th of January 2012 to be precise. The judgment was entered on Tuesday last week. About 8 good years, the court sentenced the young man 11 good years. In his judgment, the judge sentenced the accused person to imprisonment for life. But taking a look at the time, 12 good years, suppose he was not found guilty, what would have happened? And then there's also a case whereby somebody was charged to court for receiving stolen items. He has been in prison for 5 good years, but he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. It means that the 5 years that he has already spent, he has overstayed in prison custody. So these are some of the factors that could be responsible why people, Nigerians, believe that the justice should be very instant.
Sweet. All right, so I noticed that part of what we said, we've looked so much at the government, but I also feel that some of the factors that also contribute to jungle justice is the fact that people are not in line with what he said, that they've lost trust with the judicial system, but that's because they are not satisfied with the decisions of the court most times. Because most times cases go to court and the court decides that this person should go, or this person has won the case over this person, and this person too is not satisfied. So definitely there are people in court systems that are not satisfied with the way the courts would give their decision, and when they go out there, they still have a mindset that the court is the wrong place to go to for matters like this, because they would either not satisfy you or they will not, and so they just carry out the activity. So most times it's not always the court in court. Most times it's also the people who are not satisfied with the decisions of the court. And in line with what he also said, that all cases must have elements. For instance, I learned when I was doing criminal law, we learned that sometimes the things you call stealing are not stealing because they lack some elements. And in law, some elements, once an element is missing, that crime, that action has not been upheld. So if, for instance, now you believe a person has stolen, as she said, they called him a thief in the morning case, you'll be shocked that the instance of that scenario didn't amount to him being called it. But because you yourself really know that that action doesn't amount, you raise a false alarm and then it goes back. So I just believe that there is no justification whatsoever for jungle justice.
That brings us back to the factor of ignorance and illiteracy.
Ignorance of the position.
Yeah, ignorance of position of the law and illiteracy. Because, like I said earlier, if you take a very good look at cases of jungle justice, I read an article that said within the space of 2019 to 2022, there has been over 229 cases of jungle justice in Nigeria. If you Google jungle justice now, you see Nigeria and Cameroon. It's as though it's only in Nigeria and Cameroon that jungle justice takes place. So you see that there are places where the persons are largely illiterate and ignorant, and to some extent, though it's not like I'm defending persons that carry out jungle justice, but they're trying to protect their society from these criminal acts. Because if you look at a marketplace, for instance, there are usually petty thieves around, pickpockets around, and these vigilante of some sort that carry out these mob activities are trying to protect their environment, their markets, their society from these criminal activities, because they do not bring us back to trust.
And that highlights the various definitions of justice, because the society, civil society, is built on the concept of legal justice, but people in primitive areas of our Nigeria have this concept of social justice, meaning that it must be justice as the people within that locale. So for them, if you are found killing, to them killing is extremely bad, meaning that stealing is very bad. So if you deliberately steal, it means that to them you have considered the option of either dying for what you stole. So when they kill you, you are not surprised there, because everybody knows that if you steal, you go for it, it's your life. So when they kill you, just like we did what we should do, the people around feel that they did what they should do, because stealing in their head is punishable by death. So that brings the concept of justice a bit.
From what we've said so far, we are certain that the creation of public awareness on the effects of jungle justice is one of the methods or ways of coping jungle justice. But what other measures are they that can be taken to, I think, cope jungle justice?
Number one is that our judicial system, there should be accelerated hearing of cases, whether we like it or not. The problem is the solution to jungle justice. When an accused person is arrested, a suspect is arrested, the police should be able to fast track the process of investigation. And then the investigation should be discreet and thorough. When the matter is charged to the court, the process should also be transparent, and above all, it should be rapid. This is where the media has a role to play. A good number of time, people believe that when once a suspect is arrested and taken to the police station, that is the end of the matter. But it is not so. Why? Because the media will publicize that Mr. A has been arrested for murder and go back in.
Yeah.
Without following up the matter. So in the minds of the people, that person that was arrested for murder of Mr. B, have you heard anything? No, we have not heard anything about it. And this is a challenge for the media, the Nigerian media, to devote time to court reporting, because to a large extent, it's going to discourage the commission of crime. It's going to also restore the confidence of our judicial system. Why I'm saying this is that I am a court reporter. There are some cases in court that has been in court for a number of years. And to some journalists, they believe that they don't have the time. The media may not have the space, the airtime to put this matter in spotlight, except the matter that involve the big man. Do you understand? Like in the case of the newborn Umorin, I took it upon myself to ensure adequate publicity of that matter from the beginning till the end.
At Harrison, we must commend you, for following up cases, be it the one involving a rich person or the poor man.
The reason, the idea behind that is that it is to help the judicial system and our law enforcement agents, that to show that the police and the judges and lawyers are working. Because once the media report that somebody has been arrested, the next story should be the person has been charged to the court. And the next moment should be witnesses have been called. And then the process of entering into ruling or judgment. By doing that, somebody that heard of the arrest of somebody that stole or killed somebody will be so confident that if this person is taken to the court, the person will be given justice. Not just to him himself, the accused person, but justice to the disease, the case of murder, and to the state, which is the society. So by doing that, it will go to a large extent to discourage the act of injustice, because like Preye noted, this crime is so rampant in Africa. And if you look at the two countries that you mentioned, you are in Cameroon, you hardly see it in developed countries, because their judicial system is so rapid and is so transparent. In fact, there's one of our senators, a former deputy senate president of this country, that was arrested for harvest of human parts. You can imagine it did not take them off to even 4 months. The judgment was entered into it. If it were to be in Nigeria, and you see when the judgment was given, there were a lot of celebration, and that people believed that justice was done to the case, not just to be done, was seen.
All that to Lord Denny.
In addition to what he said, as you mentioned, Nigeria and Cameroon, it happen to be the ones who are pioneering this action. But if you look at other states, there's other countries, there are things that they are doing that I noticed that we don't necessarily do them in Nigeria. And one of those things is that our enforcement, that's the police particularly, they are not always available. They should work on being more available for societies. For instance, if you go to other countries now, for every stop you go to, you find policemen that can attend to issues when they call. Now in Nigeria, if you see someone that actually stole or someone that killed somebody, before you even call to find a police person or someone who can just help, it takes a while. Also, when these people, let's say if they manage to be available now, most of them get bribes. Most of them do a lot of things that make the community feel that, okay, they cannot be trusted. Let's now assume that they finally get to the prison. The court process is another big issue in Nigeria. They have to look for signatures, they have to look for big lawyers, they have to look for lawyers who they can afford, and all of those things there. So all those procedures are quite a lot for people who don't have the financial stability to do that. And lastly, that I would want to emphasize, because even the whole court system, the whole police and all of that, it boils down to the fact that people don't know. The issue of stealing for killing. Now, in our legal system, it is believed that when you are given when you commit a crime, the punishment that should be given to you should fit the crime you have committed. So most people don't know that when you steal, the punishment is 3 years imprisonment, but they kill people for it. So people should be informed. We should take law. It should not just be law students studying law. Law should go to the schools, go to communities, and people should learn more about these things.
Also, to add to what you have said, Section 4 of the Police Act states that the police is the legal institution that is allowed to apprehend criminals and also prosecute. But the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015 also states that individuals can arrest. Now, individuals can arrest but not kill or persecute. So persons can arrest persons who are accused of petty thieves pending when the police can come. Or better still, take them to the police station, the nearest police station, rather than killing them. So I believe that most of these societies or places or localities have some form of vigilantes. So rather than immediately someone is accused of stealing or something, instead of killing the innocent, you arrest the person and then take the person to the nearest police stations. Yeah, that's the best thing to do. That's the only way we can calm jungle justice in Nigeria. Otherwise, we'll just keep going back and forth.
And you know, at primary school level, we have social studies, civic education. If at this level we can redefine concept as innocence, concept as guilty, it will go a long way in covering jungle justice. Because innocence in law is what is attributed to everyone until you are proven guilty, and that takes a long judicial process to achieve that. But guilty at social level in villages, it just means that you took something and they caught you with it. That is guilty. So if children should know that merely holding something and just maybe probably running away with it does not amount to guilt, that guilt can only be attributed by a court of competent jurisdiction, it will go a very long way. Just to correct what I earlier said, in our judicial system, it is better to allow 99 suspects go scot-free than to punish one person illegal, one innocent person. Yeah, so that's his case.
Let me ask one final question. I mean, we've had a lot of discussion here today. We've talked about the police enforcement agencies, we've talked about the courts, we've talked about the media, but we've very little sense talked about the victims of jungle justice, and not just the victims, the families of the victims of jungle justice. Do you think the government has any special provision in place for the victims or the families of the victims of jungle justice? And if there is none, what recommendations would any of us here make for the government to provide?
Okay, first and foremost, when you see victims of jungle justice,
Families of the victims.
the family goes to active.
Yes, the people, there are people who have left out.
Yeah, that's true. You know, in some instances, the family can take up the case. In Bello against, I think, Attorney General of Udoh State or your state, I can't remember exact case. This guy was, okay, although that was not a typical jungle justice case, he was just executed before he could appeal. The family took it up and they finally got justice. So in an instance where the family is certain that they can eventually get justice for this person, they can approach the courts and, of course, get a lawyer, and justice will be served at the end of the day. But you know, in some instances, this is, like I said at the beginning stage, that this is a social legal concept. So there is a social stigma that is attached to, this is your son, he was killed. Do you get? You know, this Nigerian sense of, there's even
But
this kind of stuff. Yeah. So, when this person is being caught, nobody really wants to associate with him, even after his death. Would you openly come and say it's my son that was killed, when in some instances you know that son has been stealing?
So the government has no role to play in catering for the welfare of the families.
Okay, generally, of course, the government has a role to play in enforcing human rights, and that is an obvious instance of a breach of human rights. So the government can probably pay compensation, even if compensation does not really cut it, because you've killed.
It doesn't back his death.
But at least it's something.
Yeah, it's a good step. It's a step towards eventually realizing our full goal of a better society, and that balances the energies.
So, as we round up this session from Mr. Harrison, what will be your last word?
Okay, before my closing thought, I want to add that we have discussed jungle justice for quite a number of times. Let me also say that there are consequences of this jungle justice. Number one, they affect our economy. It creates insecurity and lawlessness, which also undermine the effort of the Nigerian police in maintaining law and order. For instance, at the Two Road, a few days ago, where a young man was lynched for allegedly stealing a cell phone. Shops in the whole of that area were shut for the whole day and the next day. Number one, for fear of arrest. Number two, because the body was lying on the street without evacuation by the security agents. For those number of days that those shops were shut, we have lost the owners, the operators of the business, and the residents have lost a lot of money. Talking about insecurity, there is hardly any investor that want to go and put money in a society, in a community that knows that there will be lawlessness into it. And therefore, we lost both the economic aspect of it, economic development, and then the lawlessness. But having said that, jungle justice has no place. It has no place in any law under any climate, including Nigeria. So the way forward, to me, is number one, our law enforcement agencies must be thorough and discreet while carrying out investigation. Because I have seen cases in court whereby an accused person is arrested, charged to court, and sent to prison. At the end of the day, the court discharge and acquit the accused person. But then there is no damage that is made to be paid to the victim. Number two, our judicial system must ensure that cases that go to the court are tenuously delivered by way of accelerated hearing of cases. Number three, there should be massive public enlightenment campaigns. Very important. Not just in the cities, I mean in our rural communities. Because most of this crime, the act of jungle justice, are committed in the communities. It's not even people in the urban areas. And even in the urban areas, take a look at where the jungle justice is committed. It is in that interior area. So there is the need for the authorities. It could be government, it could be the Nigerian Bar Association, it could be groups and organizations, civil organizations, the media, very importantly, because the message is going to pass through it. It's the student body, especially law students. Law students should come together and put up a program that they will go to rural communities and leave the city alone, because most of the times these crimes of the act of jungle justice are committed in the rural communities. And then finally, there is the need to ensure that those engaged, those that aid, conspire to commit jungle justice are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted. When once this is done, it will discourage others from going into jungle justice?
Thank you so very much, Mr. Harrison. We don't have the whole time. So, Mama Jojo, just in 30 seconds.
All right, so in addition to what he said, then I would take a different part too, because he has literally said a lot of things that are very important. I would like to call in religion, because the truth of the matter is that most of the people who are walking on the streets, they are highly influenced by the religion they belong to. Some people believe or are being taught that jungle justice is a thing. And so you don't expect people who are, I don't want to mention a religion, I will not, but there are religions that believe that people should pay heavily for crimes, whether it is huge or whether it is not huge. So I feel that the government should intervene into religions, because I believe that even the religions are subject to these our laws here. So I think the government can intervene in that aspect. Also, I know that crime may not reduce in the world because we are human beings. But I also believe that there are other countries that they don't have so much crimes like the way we have in countries like Nigeria, Cameroon, and all of that. I feel the government should work on bringing up social facilities that can actually make people believe that they are safe. Because in Nigeria, they don't feel safe. For instance, if someone steals now, someone can think that a thief is a killer. But if we have a system where if the government arrests a thief, they believe that, okay, this thief is going to a facility where, let's say, a rehab, or you see a drug addict, you arrest the person, you're taking the person to rehab. Because in Nigeria, it feels like once you arrest somebody, next place to take the person to is either to reuse the person or to murder the person. We don't feel safe. And most likely, if there is money, they can bring the person out again, and the crime still continues. So Nigeria should look into bringing up facilities that can actually help us reduce crimes in Nigeria. I think that would really help us for jungle justice.
So, sir, Edidiong, your final contributions.
All right, I'll close by saying that jungle justice is a social phenomenon that will keep going on and on in our society if we don't take active steps that have been recommended by each speaker here to curb it, because things don't change, people change things. So if we accept it, it will continue. If we neglect it, it will continue. If we overlook it, it will continue. If we have meetings like this and we don't implement it, it will continue. So it all boils down to me and you. It all boils down to the government. It all boils down to civil organizations taking active steps to curb jungle justice.
So to you, Preye.
Well, I believe jungle justice is wrong in itself. There's no way to modify it. There's no way to couch it. It is a criminal offense. It should be made a criminal offense, honestly. I believe the legislature should enact a law that actually punishes persons that carry out jungle justice. The AJA section 8 says it is wrong to treat persons who are in custody inhumanely. So killing someone for an accused crime, not even convicting, is wrong in itself. So persons should be enlightened, like every speaker had said. They should be educated, and I believe Nigeria as a society will survive. Definitely Nigeria will survive this. And as Mr. Dia said, that things don't change, but people change things. This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Jurisprudential Tuesday. And before we go along, we still need to at least say one thing, because I know he's an author and I want to say something about his book that we published soon.
Oh wow, that's to hear of that. So basically, my book 7 Emotions of Leadership addresses issues of personal and organizational development, and in a sense, it would address the concept of jungle justice, because I believe that discovering and working in your purpose would make you wary of getting into crimes and other vices in the society. So basically, when you understand your leadership role in the society and you effectively pursue that, you will not have time to go and start stealing things on the road. So
yeah, thank you everyone who is here, and they are all fresh graduates, and my co-host and our Bob, to Mr. Edidiong, Miss Preye, the tech enthusiast Mama Jojo, and Mr. Harrison, the judiciary reporter. Thank you everyone for being here, and to all those who made today's program success. We have Bixie Benson, Zion, Affia Media, and to the executive producer of this program, Professor Mojisola Essien and Dean Faculty of Law. I have been your former host, Odinaka Chuku Iyanacho.
Now your co-host, Houston of Lepo.
Till when next we come your way, make sure everything you do remains legal. Bye!